My name is Kersing, and I make videos about writing poems in 3 languages. Today, I'm going to talk about my experience with the rhyme books in traditional Chinese poetry. As we know that in traditional Chinese poetry, it's similar to the Shakespearean type of poetry. It has very strict rhyme and structure. In traditional Chinese poetry, we have level and oblique tones and also very strict rhymes. So, now let me introduce you to the rhyme books that I've used and how I find about them. I started writing traditional Chinese poetry since I was 10. I hope people don't punch me for saying that because I think at that time what I've written really is not traditional Chinese poetry when I started, because it's not really following a very strict pattern. I was just a child. So at first I did not really have a rhyme book, so I just used a rhyme in our daily language, and it's not really like very strict rhyme. I did follow the structure of traditional Chinese poetry to some extent. I used 5 or 7 characters in each sentence, and I followed that. But at that time, I think it's just the starting point of me writing traditional Chinese poetry. I started to learn about the rhyme in traditional Chinese poetry starting when I was 12 years old, and I think I kind of mastered that rhyme when I was 15. So I did actually learn a rhyme book. My version of learning a rhyme book was to remember it. Of course, I did not remember that in a very rigid way. I chose to remember the poems from other poets who are famous in history, so that I do remember their poems. And then I use their rhymes and I borrow them. So that's how I write my poems. And then, through practice, I did come to the point that I could say that I could master the rhyme. So, you might be curious, what is a rhyme book? Yeah, because I think in traditional Chinese poetry, rhyme book plays a very important part, at least in a lot of young people's mind in my country, who write traditional Chinese poetry. They kind of respect a rhyme book. It's kind of something we have to follow. There are 2 phases of development of traditional Chinese poetry rhyme books. One is in ancient China, and another is in modern China. So, in ancient China, we also have 2 phases of development. One is before Tang Dynasty, and another is after Tang Dynasty. So, before Tang Dynasty, we have the rhyme books, which are based on how people speak in their daily life. And after Tang Dynasty, it's there's a rhyme that has not changed. It's called 平水 rhyme for shi poetry, and 词林 standard rhyme for ci poetry. So no matter how the language develops, how the sound patterns might change, they stick to 2 types of rhyme books, which one is for shi poetry and one is for ci poetry. Shi poetry is a type of poetry that is very strict. It has very strict rhymes, and also the characters in it has to be certain amount of characters in each sentence. We have 5 characters in each sentence, and 7 characters in each sentence. It has to stick to that pattern. While in ci poetry is more flexible, you might have different length of sentences, but you do have to follow a kind of pattern, but it's more flexible also in terms of the rhymes. Let's take the rhyme book as an example to explain like how 诗 and 词 poetry are different. Like in terms of rhymes,诗 poetry has more strict rhymes than 词 poetry. Actually, like the 词零 standard rhyme is kind of like grouping different rhymes in 诗 poetry, like in 平水 rhyme, together. For example, 词零 standard rhyme kind of like groups the 13 元, 14 寒, and 15 山 together into one rhyme. Like you can use this rhyme together in 词零 standard rhyme, but you can't really use these rhymes together in 平水 rhyme. 平水 rhyme was developed by someone from Shanxi province and in a place called 平水. 平水 rhyme and 词零 standard rhyme were used up until now, and they are also seen as the standard rhyme of today's traditional Chinese poetry. In modern China, we do develop like modern rhymes. Most of them are developed by Chinese Poetry Society. The first one is called Chinese New Rhyme, which was developed in 2005 and was developed on Zhu in system. And in 2019, we developed a new rhyme book. It was developed by two places. One is the Chinese Poetry Society, which I'm a member of that, and it was also developed by the Ministry of Education. Its aim is to bring traditional Chinese poetry into the classes of school children. So this one is based on kind of like the system of how we speak in China, the Mandarin Chinese right now. I only got to know about like the Chinese general rhyme since I was in university. So when I was in high school, like I was just writing poems, traditional Chinese poetry, only using the rhymes in ancient China, and specifically to the 平水 rhymes and 词零 standard rhymes. But then, when I entered university, after I got to know about a lot of young people in Chinese universities who are also writing traditional Chinese poetry, my perspective changed. I thought that, okay, so the rhyme is developing that way. We have to make traditional Chinese poetry survive in modern China, so that we have to kind of develop a kind of traditional Chinese poetry that can adapt to the needs of our modern society. So in some ways, we have to adapt to the rhymes. So right now I do write in choosing those kind of new rhymes, and also the Chinese general rhyme, which was developed in 2019, because I think like the rhymes are always developing, and I have to adapt to the trend. Sometimes I still use like 平水 rhyme and 词零 standard rhyme when I feel like I need that. There's another view about the rhymes. It's about like whether you are using the standard Mandarin or you're using some kind of dialect, because there are in a lot of dialects in China, especially in the southern part of China, they do use the same sound pattern as in 平水 rhyme, while people like me who don't use that kind of like dialect, we have to imagine that. I used to enjoy imagining about that as a child, because we can't really know like how it sounded like when it was in ancient China, so that we can guess. We can kind of like that is a kind of beauty of not knowing something, because we have the space of the imagination. I also know of some rhyme books in English, but only in English, because I don't really use any rhyme books in other languages, unfortunately, right now. I do want to know more about rhyme books in other countries as well. I do use Rhymer and Rhymezoom in English. If you have any recommendations for the rhyme books for in your language or English, you can comment down below to let me know. I would love to know a lot about what kind of rhyme books do you use in your country, or do you really use a rhyme book in writing poetry in your country? I kind of do come to know that in English, when I'm writing English poetry, people don't really like to rhyme at the end of the sentence right now. They try to drop the rhyme in between the lines. So if you know about any patterns of using the rhyme in the poetry in your country, comment down below. I would like to know about that. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!